Hey, it's Kyle again. In this video reflection, this is the final video reflection, second one of the spring for 2018. And in this video reflection, I want to talk about goals that I've set since the beginning of student teaching in August up through my final placement currently, which will end April 27th. So I'd like to talk about goals from each placement and review these goals that were established and challenges, achievements, as well as overall progress towards those goals and how they will shape the objectives I continue to focus on during the remaining weeks of my final rotation. So I'd like to start off with my first placement at the Moog Center for Deaf Education, and I'm going to talk about the goals that I set for that placement. So the first goal, I have 3 goals for Moog, and the 3 goals were managing behavior of preschool age students in a classroom setting. The second goal was targeting specific language structures for preschoolers and developing appropriate activities to practice those targets. And the third goal was creating lesson plans and developing activities for teaching speech skills to preschool age children. So at Moog, to address the first goal, managing behavior of preschool age students, my experience has always been with second grade in a general education setting. So it was very interesting to have a preschool experience, which is exactly what I wanted. And to be honest, behavior is not too much different between the two because they're still establishing routines even in second grade. So at the Moog Center, managing the behavior was not too difficult. A lot of it has to do with, intrinsic motivation, which is difficult for preschoolers because they're still learning all these things about themselves. But extrinsic motivation was very helpful. So to help them achieve these goals of managing behavior in a way that they understand that it's important to manage their own behavior, doing things like sticker charts and rewards at the end of the week, working towards a specific goal by following directions and lining up correctly. So these types of behaviors are a little bit different because they're establishing routines. It's their first year outside of a big group setting in, a toddler class. So working towards that goal worked really well because the kids were very motivated to do things because they were provided with incentives to do so, and it helped them remember things that they needed to do. For my second goal, targeting specific language structures for preschoolers and developing appropriate activities to practice those targets. So it's very hard to, unless you know the kids really well, to think of language targets that are appropriate for them at the preschool level. Having a lot of experience with my cooperating teacher and using the TASL forms to evaluate language levels of the kids that I worked with in the preschool helped tremendously because I was able to look at different areas of strength, areas of weakness, and areas that needed continual improvement just to maintain skill level. And being able to use these forms was extremely helpful because you can track the progress and know and have an idea if something is too difficult or if it might be too easy. Then it's a choice that you make to not target that at that time because you want it to be at a level that they can achieve it and be an obtainable, measurable goal and not be too frustrating for them at such a young age. So the forms were very helpful and instrumental in that process, and my cooperating teacher was very helpful with helping select targets as well. My third goal, creating lesson plans and developing activities for teaching speech skills to preschool age children. So speech is an area that I was always probably the most uncomfortable with in student teaching because I know that it's a lot of on-the-spot evaluation and it takes careful listening to ensure that, the children are practicing their speech sounds correctly, and you don't want them to keep practicing them incorrectly. So you have to correct speech when necessary and then give them ways in which they can achieve success by practicing, whether you break it down to a syllable level and eventually work your way back up to the word level. And that recommendation from my cooperating teacher as well as other professionals in the building said that it would be helpful to break it down to syllable level if you need to and then work your way back up so they get more practice and repetition with success. And that helped a lot. So for CID, my second placement, my goals were, I had 3 goals. The first one is learning and implementing centers in a preschool setting. The second was to develop skills choosing, evaluating, and assessing language targets for children in a preschool setting. And the third one was increasing knowledge on auditory skill development, activities, and assessments. So for the first goal, learning and implementing centers in a preschool setting, centers is kind of a group time, and the children choose their centers. And the progress towards these goals, I think, was very positive because the kids were able to make adjustments in their centers, and they had specific activities that they worked on, and they focused on skills that were, skills that were viable for that week. So they involved carryover from one setting to another, and they could be applied in the classroom as well as the center room. And to implement the centers that the kids were using, we were able to stick with a theme, and by utilizing that theme and the vocabulary from that theme, we were able to transfer language from the classroom setting over to a more natural conversational setting in centers when they're working with other students and peers. So I felt that this goal was achieved, and there were some challenges because of the differing language levels, and the children that I was working with at CID were of a lower language level. So there were lots of improvements that were made, but progress overall, it was a great experience for them. The second goal, developing skills, choosing, evaluating, and assessing language targets for children in a preschool setting. So this was more focused on me, this goal specifically, because I wanted to get better at developing the skills and choosing them myself instead of having the cooperating teacher suggest certain areas of development. So for me, this was a big step because I achieved more confidence in selecting targets for children and that were more accurate and more attainable goals that they were able to. It was a challenge for them, but they were still able to achieve them by working hard. And I think that this goal really developed well while I was at CID because my cooperative teacher was very helpful and instrumental in helping me to implement these goals by looking over forms and assessing the language levels of the students and really taking a look at their abilities in the classroom. The third goal at CID was increasing knowledge on auditory skill development, activities, and assessments. So auditory skill development was something that I was hoping to have more practice with. And because my student teaching occurred in the morning, most of the placements that I had, auditory skill development, happened more in the afternoon. But along with my cooperating teacher, there were ways that I was able to incorporate auditory skill development into lessons, language lessons, conversational lessons, language experience lessons, etc. And to do this, following directions, ways that you can just, in a short amount of time, provide auditory skill checks and activities that are very quick and on the spot that the children can develop their skills better by listening and following those directions in a way that shows their comprehension of the skill. And that worked really well because with the help of my cooperating teacher, I was able to implement these in everyday activities. Moving on to my third placement, Hazelwood Central High School. I had 3 goals, and they were very specific to the high school level. The first one was learning to adjust teaching strategies to help students learn job-related skills. The second goal was to improve signing abilities to increase vocabulary and communicate with students who use ASL more efficiently. And the third goal was to become more familiar with visual phonics and the Wilson curriculum to be able to work with the students efficiently. So for the first goal, the high school students were involved in a program called CBVI, Community-Based Vocational Instruction, and this was for preparing the students for workforce and job-related skills to develop at the Florissant Valley Community College. So the students would go and they would work at the school and do different jobs. And teaching on the spot and teachable moments was helpful for these students because I was able to communicate with them in a way that they understood what was required of them, and we established a pretty good relationship from this. The second goal was to improve signing abilities to increase vocabulary and communicate with students who use ASL more efficiently. I have a very limited sign background, 1 semester of class, but achieved a tremendous amount of vocabulary. So any chance and opportunity I had to work towards this goal of improving sign abilities, and the students were very helpful in this because they helped me just as much as the teachers there. I was able to communicate with students using, basic sign to communicate ideas and what I was thinking to them, and I was able to understand them as well with the help of an interpreter sometimes. So I think I made a lot of progress towards this goal, and it was a challenge because there's a communication barrier with me having a limited ASL background and a lot of the students being ASL as their main mode of communication or their only mode of communication. So that was a big challenge for me, but I think we made a lot of progress because I had a lot of help from the students and the staff. My third goal was to become more familiar with visual phonics and the Wilson curriculum to be able to work with the students. So this is a curriculum that they use to develop visual phonics, and it's a very, in some ways, complex curriculum. It's a way of practicing their sounds and the signs that go with them. And this was very interesting to me because this was helpful for the students that sign with understanding vocabulary and also their reading development. And I just wanted to learn more about this program and be able to teach some of it with the students as well. And I think this worked out very well, and I had a lot of help from my cooperating teacher, which was, I think, a great improvement on the goal that I set for myself. And then my final placement, Piney Ridge Elementary, my 3 goals were to gain a better understanding of IEP goals, the language used to write them, and data collection methods in regards to the IEP. My second goal was to improve techniques for addressing specific needs of individual students across different subject content in class. And my third goal was to gain a stronger understanding of strategies used to better assist students in classroom situations with a diagnosis other than hearing loss, such as autism or ADHD or reading disabilities. So for this current placement, I've been able to sit in on IEP meetings, review IEPs, look at the goals, learn more about, developing measurable goals, attainable goals that are functional for the students in the classroom. And this was an area that I didn't have a ton of background knowledge in, only what I've learned about it, but actually applying and being able to sit in on these meetings was extremely helpful with the parent support, obviously, and the parent agreement to allow me to sit in on those meetings. I was very thankful to gain more experience and exposure to IEP goals and have a better understanding of how to write them. For the second goal, improving techniques for addressing specific needs of individual students across different subject content in class. So these students are working, 6th grade students working social studies, science, math, and reading. So 4 main subject areas, and finding ways to address their individual needs in each class subject was also difficult at times, but getting to know the students better really helped well, and being able to spend time with them working independently or in a small group was very, very helpful because it helped me understand the differences in the types of needs and support that each student required in each subject area. So by doing this, I was able to help students in a way that was beneficial to them, but not enable them and do their work for them. They were able to complete it on their own. The third goal, gaining a stronger understanding of strategies used to better assist students with a diagnosis other than hearing loss, such as autism and ADHD. So on my cooperating teacher's caseload, there are students with other disabilities and such as autism, ADHD, and reading disabilities. So just getting more general knowledge about the difficulties that these students encounter in everyday subjects was helpful because it allowed me to think about the way I approach talking about material and content from class with them. I learned about their strengths and their weaknesses, and by doing that, I was able to help them better achieve the goals in each class and also help them with their work in class because a lot of it is difficult for them and it becomes frustrating. So finding ways to, make sure that they can be calm but also focus on their work and why it's important for them to do that. And by doing this with my cooperating teacher's help, it's been very helpful with getting through and establishing a good relationship with the students so they could trust me and know that I'm there to help them in any way that I possibly can. So overall, in the future, with these goals that I've set for myself in student teaching, I hope to carry these on to my next position as an early interventionist. And although I'll be working with the birth to 3 population, all of these goals are very helpful because they all touch in areas that will be required for development of these young children. So having more experience, having more knowledge, having more application of these practices and being able to, know and be able to think on the spot of something that would be helpful for a young child will be very helpful to me in the future. And for my, the remaining weeks of my student teaching placement, I just hope to continue what I've learned from all 4 placements so far and help this wide range of ages that I've worked with in any way possible to help them and empower them to be better students, to help them, think about what's really important about what their work is that they're doing and why it's so important that they do their best work. And that's all I have for this reflection. It's been a wonderful experience, and I want to thank my advisors and practical coordinators and everyone else that has been involved in this process. It has been a wonderful experience, and I appreciate all of your support and guidance through all of this. Thank you so much.